Hi, and welcome back to Hudson Appliance for another episode of Wicked Good Food. I'm your host, Matt Williams, and today we're going to make a couple different dishes that you can make right at the table to kind of impress your friends. We're going to do it like you would see in a classical restaurant. We're going to make a homemade, real quick and easy Caesar salad, and we're also going to make some guacamole tableside. But to go along with that, we're going to have some tortilla chips that we're going to bake, make them a little more healthy, and we're going to make some croutons as well. We're going to start out with our croutons. I've got a clove of garlic here. I just want to snip the little end off the garlic. Remove that. Now I'm going to be using a mortar and pestle to make the guacamole today, so I thought I would use it to smash up our garlic a little bit for our croutons. So I'm just going to take it and stick it in there. Give it a couple little whacks, and you'll notice that the peel was still on there, but now the peel comes right off, just like so. We're going to put that back in there, and I'm just going to use a mortar and pestle and just mash it up a bit. Now if you like big hunks of garlic, leave your hunks of garlic really big. If you like a little smaller, then just keep on working on it. So we've got relatively big hunks, which is what I'm looking for. I'm just going to use my fingers, scoop it out, and I'm going to throw it right into some butter. This is what we're going to make with our croutons. Whoops, a little piece of peel there. Let's get rid of that. We've got some garlic and some butter, and we're going to add some salt and pepper to it, but I really want to let the garlic cook nice and slowly so that our butter is flavored with all our garlic, so you don't get a really intense piece of garlic. Because we're going to be making croutons, I have the oven much lower than I normally would. Our goal with our croutons is that our finished crouton is nice and crunchy, golden brown on the outside, but dried out in the middle. If you have your oven too hot, then you find that it looks beautiful on the outside, but it's still like soft bread in the middle, so we have to cook them very slowly. Croutons are great for using stale bread or old bread because you're going to cook them anyways and they're going to dry out. So I'm going to go ahead and slice this. And it's up to you what size you want your croutons. There's nothing that says you couldn't serve a crouton like that. You could put this in the bottom of your bowl and put your Caesar on top, or vice versa. But we're going to make them a little smaller, a little more traditional. So we're going to slice these into sticks, essentially. And then these, we'll go ahead and slice into the size we want our finished croutons to be. Now I've pre-sliced a few of these just for the sake of time. And our garlic has had a chance to cook a little bit in our oil. I do need to add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. Now I already have some bread here in the bowl. I'm going to add this to it. And come back over here to our garlic butter. Just give it a quick little stir. Then we'll go ahead and pour this right on top. We want to toss them around a bit. I always like to do it in a bowl because that way you get them much better coated and you can toss them around. Some will have a little more butter than others, but as long as you toss it pretty quickly, they'll be equally coated. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put these right on our tray. Spread them out. Same thing. We want to put these in one layer. This one fell off. You can always taste one to make sure it's all right. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, these are going to go right in the oven. One thing I'm going to do before I get everything else ready is to crack our eggs for our Caesar salad. Now, like you may have heard me say before, your hands are definitely the best tool you have in the kitchen, so utilize them. So now I get my beautiful little egg yolk there. Stick that one in there. Same thing here. It's always better to crack an egg on a flat surface than the rim of a bowl, just because it's less likely for the shell to go up into it. All right, I'm going to wash my hands, and we'll come back and get ready for our Caesar salad. All right, so I've got a head of romaine lettuce. It's already been washed. I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. And we're not going to use all this, so I'll eat that later. But now the way I like to do this, the best thing to do with lettuce is actually to tear it. It's much better for the lettuce. If you go through and tear each individual leaf, you do less damage to the cell structure. But because we're going to eat this right away, it's not that big of a deal. But I'm going to take my knife and make a couple cuts going this way. And I'm going to get rid of this one rib that's there. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to cut perpendicular to those last cuts. Just down to about there. Now we've got our nice fluffy lettuce. When you're making a salad, you should never have to cut your salad with a fork or a knife. So whether you're at a restaurant or at your house, that's one thing to think about, is you always want to make sure your lettuce is small enough that it's not going to have to be cut. Now what we're going to do, remember our goal here is to make this table side. So right now we're just working on our presentation. We're going to actually put our lettuce into this napkin, and that's a good amount of lettuce. And I'm going to fold it up like so, like that. So now this is something you do in the kitchen. You put it on your little tray or whatever you're going to bring out to your guests, and then they don't even know what's in here. After you make your dressing, you pop that right out into your dressing and you're ready to go. So I want to talk briefly before we actually go ahead and make it about some of the ingredients. First ingredient we're going to use is an anchovy. And some people freak out about anchovies, but you're not going to be able to taste the anchovy as an anchovy, but it's going to add a wonderful body, and it's going to add a little bit of thickness and a little bit of texture to it. We're going to use some raw garlic. Raw garlic is very important. If you're afraid of the raw garlic, you could roast it beforehand, but definitely don't buy that garlic that's in the little jar packed in water, because taste it and taste some fresh garlic, and you'll say, well, that doesn't taste at all the same. What I'm going to do to this, though, before we get going, is I'm going to cut the end off, and I'm just going to give it a quick pop and pop it out of its skin. But I want to leave it whole, and you'll want to leave it whole when you go out to the table, and I'll show you why. And we've got our egg yolks. We've got 2 nice fresh egg yolks. Now some people get very nervous about using raw eggs because they think that they're going to get salmonella poisoning and that's a big issue. And it can be an issue. But if you use nice fresh eggs and you treat them well, I mean, you don't have to sing to them or anything, but you treat them well by keeping them in the refrigerator, keeping them out of the temperature danger zone, and use them quickly, the possibility of foodborne illness is very low. The problems happen when you leave your eggs out at room temperature, or you have them open, or you've been working with eggs and then you touch some of your raw vegetables and those end up getting eaten later on and don't get cooked. That's where the big issues come from. But if you're nervous still, and that's okay, you can buy pasteurized egg yolks, which have gone through a pasteurization process that'll actually kill all the bacteria that's in there. But we're going to use raw eggs today. I've got a lemon. Lemon's going to play a really important role in this because it's going to add acidity and it's going to add some water. The liquid that's in here is going to help to thin it out. Some Dijon mustard, which is going to give a great bit of richness and body and a little tang. Same thing, we're going to a little tang from some Worcestershire sauce. And we've got some vegetable oil here. That's going to combine to make our dressing. And we're going to end up adding a little pepper, a little bit of cheese. I'm going to go ahead and pull our croutons out. I can smell them. I think they're about done. Beautiful golden brown. Look at these. Those right there. And you can always check one. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? You're in the kitchen. And I broke it up, and I'm going to touch the inside, and it's pretty crispy. That's exactly what I'm looking for. All right, so our croutons are out. We've given them a chance to cool off a little bit, and I have them in a bowl here. It's really important you give them a chance to cool off. You can make these the day before even. Don't store them in the refrigerator, but you want to keep them somewhere dry. But if you add hot croutons to your cold lettuce, it's going to end up wilting it. All right, so here we go. Now we've walked out to our table. We're in front of our guests. We have all our mise en place set up. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a hunk of garlic. It's already been peeled. We cut off that little nub. I'm just going to take my fork, and I'm going to rub the garlic into the bowl. Now you want to use a wooden bowl for this because it's actually going to absorb a little bit of your garlic. And I'm going to take that off, and I don't want to use all this raw garlic, so I'm going to just use my other fork here and cut it in half. We'll remove that. Now at this point, I'm going to add our whole anchovy, and I'm going to use my fork and I'm going to smush it, just like that. Then same thing with this. I'm going to put it on top of the fork and smush. and you just keep smushing up. Smush it right against each other. Now if you want your garlic to be super fine, keep going. If you want your garlic to be a little larger, work on your anchovy a little more. But you want it to be small enough that it's going to end up being part of your dressing, not going to be big hunks. And we're almost there now. And just slide it off. Alright, so there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some lemon juice. Now I've gone through and I pulled all the seeds out of this, which is a good idea. You don't want to drop all the seeds in there. Another thing you could do is you could wrap your half lemon in cheesecloth. But I'm going to go ahead and squeeze. It's a pretty big lemon. There's a seed. Get that out of there. So I'm not going to go crazy and get all that out of there. If you want it to look real pretty, you know, when you walk away, you can put your forks like that. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 egg yolk because I don't think we're going to need 2. Just for the amount of salad we're doing. And I'm going to add our mustard. That's enough. It's a little less than a teaspoonful. And just a few drops of Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to go back to this and start working on this and blending this all together using both of my forks. If you find any other big pieces of anchovy or garlic, you can mash them up a little bit. So far it doesn't look very appealing, at least it doesn't to me, but we'll get there. What we're making here is essentially we're making a mayonnaise. We're making a permanent emulsion. So we're going to take 2 things. We're going to take this, which is just kind of loose and running all over the place, and we're going to mix it with oil, which normally if you just mix them together they would separate like Italian dressing would. But we're going to mix them together in such a way that we're going to create one thing that stays together, which is going to be our emulsion, which is going to be just like making mayonnaise. Okay, now put that one down. I'll grab our oil. And you want to start out doing it very slowly. I'm just going to drizzle some oil in. And you'll see that you can actually see the oil and you can see that it looks a little bit greasy. And you mix it until all the little bits of oil that you see floating on the top are gone. Go ahead and add a little more. But it's important you do it slowly because you don't want it to all mix. If you put it all together, you won't be able to mix it all together. It'll end up separating and not look too good. Alright, we'll add just a little bit more. We're done with that. That's perfect. And I'll show you. Now you can see if you look at this how much thicker it's gotten now. So now we've combined those 2 ingredients together. Alright, so I'm going to remove this. These can go over into our sink. Then remember when we made our nice little package of lettuce, we're going to go ahead and drop our lettuce in. Right into our bowl. This is the time we're going to sprinkle in some of our croutons. About like that, looks good. I'll have the rest of those later. And I like to sprinkle in a little bit of Parmesan cheese now. Some people like it only on top, but I like it mixed right in there. So now I'm going to move over. They call this a service set. It's a big fork and a big spoon. It's just a big fork and a big spoon. But what we want to do is kind of flip it over on itself. Push it away and pull it towards you. And what you're looking for is that all that dressing that's on the bottom of our bowl here will end up being all over our lettuce. I'll drop the little here. Put that back in. You know, you're at the table with friends. They don't care that you're touching their food. Alright, that looks about perfect. So now I'm going to let's move this out of the way. I'm going to grab our plate. Now this is a plate that I had in the refrigerator for a little bit. Anytime you serve salad, you want to serve it on a cold plate. So now you just want to kind of scoop it. Put it right in the center of your plate. So there's one. We'll grab another. So what do you think? Was that hard to do? Pretty quick and easy? There's so many things that we buy at the supermarket now that weren't traditionally bought at the supermarket. You know, you'd make your Caesar dressing to order and make it at home. You'd have all your ingredients right there. I'm a big fan of trying to bring back some of that stuff.